Good afternoon, Professor. I hope you're doing good. So if you see that I have this, it's because I'm kind of cold. I gotta say. So I'm gonna start talking about what I need to do for problem 6.1, and I'm gonna read it to you. Let me put my glasses on. All right. So it says, carry out the following tasks with an array. First one is that we need to allocate an array called A of 10 integers. So that array is gonna have 10 integers. Yep, a length of 10 integers. Alright, so the next step is that we need to put the number 17 as the initial element of the array. So the first element in our array is going to be 17. Then we have put the number 29 as the last element of the array. So the last element is going to equal 29. Then we have fill the remaining elements with -1. So all elements except the first one and the last one, they're going to equal to -1. Then we have add one to each element of the array. So we're going to add 1 to all the elements in the array, including 17 and 29. Then we're gonna print all the elements of the array in one per line. So we're gonna go 17, -1, -1, -1 until we get to 29. And then the last step is that we're gonna print all the elements of the array in a single line, separated by commas. So we're gonna print all the elements from the array into one line. So 17, -1, -1, -1, 29. And all of them are gonna be separated by commas. So let's go to VS Code, and let's start writing. So let's create our array. Which is going to be this int. And then we have this, the name of the array equals new int, and then this. Okay. So we just created our array using integers, and here we have the array length, which equals to 10. So it will have 10 elements in total. So now we're gonna go with the next step, and we're gonna make the first element to equal 17. Okay. So for that, we need to call the name of the array's name, and we're gonna go like this with brackets. And people, they might get confused with it, but the first element is not 1. That will be the second element. So the first element of an array is 0, and then we're gonna equal to 17. And now let's do the third step, which is make the last step equal 29, and we're gonna A9 equals 29. So our first and last element are equal to the values that they were asking us to set them for, 17 and 29. Then we're gonna go with this one. So it says fill the remaining elements with -1. So the difficult way could be that we could go with this. We could do the same thing here, and we could go like A1 equals -1. You know, we could do that. That is okay to do, but we don't want to be doing all that for all of them. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna use a for loop. And we're gonna go for int I equals 1. We're gonna start from the element 1 because we don't want to touch the first element, because that is what the exercise is telling us. So we're gonna start from element 1. Element 1, then I is less than A. That will be no 9. Okay, so I plus plus. Okay, so I'm gonna explain the for loop. We're gonna start from the element 1. If the element is less than 9, that will be the condition for the for loop to run. Then the number that is equal to, well, if the number that is equal to I, or the element that is equal to I, will increase. So as long as I is less than 9, this for loop will run. So it's asking us to set the remaining elements to equal to -1. So what we're gonna do is I brackets, well, A brackets I equals -1. So with this for loop that we have here, the rest of the elements are gonna equal -1, except the first one and the last one. Okay. Then we're gonna do this step, which says add 1 to each element of the array. So we're gonna do another for loop in this case. Alright, so we're gonna start int I equals 0. We're gonna start from the element 0 because it's telling us to add 1 to all the elements. So we're gonna start from 0. Int equals 0. Then we're gonna go if I is less than a length there, I plus plus. Alright, so we're gonna start from element 0. Our condition is if I is less than the array's length, then the for loop can run. So the length is 10, so we have 10 elements in the array, but we can ignore these numbers. In the end, those numbers are like those numbers are where we locate the values, you could say. So we have a list and we have the first element, let's say is 10, the index, or or to to find the value inside that list. The first element is going to be 0, the second element is going to be 1, the third one is going to be 2, so on and so forth. So we can ignore these numbers. The one that we're going to use is this one. So if I is less than the length of the array, then I plus plus, so it'll keep running. Okay, so we're gonna do a bracket I plus equals 1. So the plus equals is that it's gonna add 1 and it's gonna set the numbers to be equal to what we have after this addition. So let's just talk about these two. For the first element in the array, it's gonna go from 17 to 18, and the last one is gonna go from 29 to 30. For this one right here, all elements are gonna go from being -1 to 0. Okay, that's what I predict is gonna happen. Then the next step is that we need to print all elements of the array, one per line. Okay, so we're gonna make another for loop, and we're gonna go int I equals 0. We're gonna print all the elements, so we're gonna go from 0. I is less than a length. If I is less than a length, I plus plus. So it follows the same condition as the last one, so we know what it means. We start from 0. If I is less than the length of the array, then it prints, or it executes the for loop. So it's telling us to print all elements one per line. So we're gonna do a print method, system out print. We're gonna add ln to print a new line every time we go through this for loop. We're gonna say ai. Alright, so with this, all the values from the array should be printed one per line. And to make sure what's happening, I'm gonna write another print method that says let's say one element per line. Let's just say that. Okay. Alright, so after this, I'm gonna call another one so we can divide it a little better. Okay, so now for the last step is that we need to print all elements of the array in a single line, separated by commas. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna call another print method, and I'm gonna say all elements in one line. Okay, it's 10:38. Okay, I was checking the time. Okay, so we're gonna make another for loop. We're gonna start from 0, or the element 0. Yes, so I less than a length, I plus plus. So our conditions, they still haven't changed, so same things are happening. Then we're gonna print the elements. We're gonna go system out print, and because the problem is telling us to print everything in one line, we're not gonna put ln. So we're gonna go like this. I'm gonna call the array, the brackets, and we're gonna put I inside. Okay, so we got that all said, but now we're missing one thing. Is that for this, every time it prints, it's asking to be separated by a comma. So what are we gonna do? Well, in this case, we don't need to work with any loops, thankfully. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna work with an if statement. So we're gonna do this inside the for loop. We're gonna go if I, in this case the element, is less than the array length minus 1. That is our condition. System out print. Then we put the things. Then we put a comma. And this if statement should help us separate the elements from each other when it's printing. I'm gonna put this to make it better. I'm gonna put it outside the for loop. Okay. I'm gonna separate everything a little, and I'm about to explain how everything works. All right. So first, it prints all elements in one line. Sorry, line. All right. So then we have our for loop, same conditions as before. Then it prints the element, but then we need to figure it out how we can make it print a comma when we print an element. So we need to do an if statement. So we're gonna say if the element is less than the array's length minus 1, then system.print comma and then a little space so we can print out the next element. So why do we write minus 1 after the length? So we don't want the last element to have a comma because there won't be any other element after it. So in a normal list or whenever we are writing something on paper and there are different numbers, maybe different things, we write the thing, comma, and then the last thing. If people are correct with their grammar, they might put a point, but that point will mean that it ended, that there's nothing else after it. But if people don't care, they're just gonna leave it like that. So they might have comma, and that's it. So this is what it's doing. This is what it's checking. So if the element is less than the length minus 1, then this will print. But if that's not the case, it will skip this, and then it'll go back, and it'll continue, and then the program will be done. So yeah, let's check it out. Let's see how it is. You're gonna run Java, yeah. So it's loading. Alright. So we have here one element per line, and we have 18. Then we have all the zeros and the 30. So we can see here that the first element and the last element were set to 17 and 29. So we have these ones. Then the rest of the elements, so element 1 to 8, they were set to -1. Then with another for loop, we added 1 to all of the elements in the array. So from element 0 to element 9, we added 1. So the element 0 went from being 17 to 18. The rest went to be 0, and the last one went to be 30. So we can see that everything is good here. Now I'm gonna go with the last for loop. So we have this message being printed out. It says 1 element per line. We can see that 1 element per line. Then the condition, the for loop runs. It checks if everything is good, and then it prints the element, and it goes to the next line. This is to separate the for loops. As you can see here, separated. This didn't work for some reason, this one, but it's okay. That didn't have anything to do with the code. I'll fix it and I'll send you the one working. So we have that there. And then for the last for loop, it says all elements in one line. So we have this being printed. And then we have the for loop, it runs, and then it prints the element. And then we have the commas, the if statement for the commas. So we can see that all elements, they have a comma right after they're being printed, except the last one. Because if we make this numbers, or to be more understandable, if we're talking about the last one, element 9, so we're gonna say, is 9 less than 10 minus 1? How much is 10 minus 1? 9. So is 9 less than 9? No, that's not true. So that line will not run. This print method will not run. So the last element will not have a comma. And yes, so that will be it. I hope everything is okay. And I hope for the rest of the assignments that I send you, I hope that they can be fixed. I already sent you the copies. I was able to fix the access to the videos, and now everything should be good. And I'll make sure that this one works as well. So yes, this was my code. And yes, have a good day.